This is 5 Minute Feng Shui, episode number 72, When Money Goes Too Quickly. Welcome to the 5 Minute Feng Shui podcast, where each week I talk about how to move energy and make money. You'll learn how to create a prosperous home and an abundant life using classical Chinese Feng Shui. I'm your host, Katie Weber, publisher of the Red Lotus Letter, Feng Shui Easing for Wealth. Each week, I'll cover Feng Shui topics that can help you improve your life, share inspiring stories, and always end with 3 easy-to-implement Feng Shui tips that you can put to work right away, and usually in about 5 minutes. Now let's get started on the 5 minutes that could change your life. Hello there, and welcome to 5 Minute Feng Shui. Today we are talking about a very common problem, and that's when money just flies out of the house. Maybe it flies out of your wallet. It doesn't matter if it flies out of your house or your wallet or your pants pocket, wherever it's flying out of. All you know is when it's flying, that doesn't feel good. I remember one time doing a feng shui consultation for a very successful female entrepreneur, and she was doing great, lots and lots of business. Oh my gosh, yeah. And when I went to go look at her office, I remember saying to her, "How long have you had money problems?" And she said, "I make a very good income." And I said, "Well, it's not the money coming in I'm concerned about, it's the money going out." And she turned and cocked her head, and "How did you know?" See, we can have plenty of money coming in, but if the money going out exceeds the money coming in, or the money going out is going out faster than we can get the money coming in, or you're just burning through money, it puts a dent, right? It puts a dent in your budget. It puts a dent in things that you want to do, like vacations or go shopping or eating out, whatever it is that you like to do. And so that's why we need to really look at, how is my money leaving me? How is it just flying out of my wallet as fast as it is? Now, one of the most common ways for money to go flying out, and in fact, it was actually this way that this particular woman, her arrangement was, and this is, her front door was aligned with the rear of the building. So what happened was that, well, obviously it was aligned with the rear with just a big giant window. So you could open the door and see, whoop, straight out the window, and that meant all the money went out the window too. Now, if you have a house that has a door where the front door is lined up with the back door, the front door is lined up with a window, or the front door is lined up with a big, it may not necessarily be in like an openable window, but like a big view of the backyard, the money can go through really quickly. And that is called a poison arrow. Now, this poison arrow symbolizes rushing energy that goes from the front door to the opposite door or out the window. And it can actually be really serious when you can see out the back of the house. And it's really very worrisome if you have a pool at the rear of the house where you can see from the front door when you open the door and see smack out to the pool. I've often called those bankruptcy houses because many times those homes do go bankrupt. So what's important to remember is that chi flows where the eye goes, and chi is like money. So if your window goes out the back window, or your eye goes out to the back window of your backyard, you can bet that's where your money's going to. So it's so important that you stop your eye from visually going out the house. Now, that is just one of those ways where you can see this money flying through the house. So what do we do? How do we handle that? If you have 2 doors that are aligned, or you have a window that's aligned with the front door, and you see out the front. Now, this is something that needs to be corrected. Now, in today's design aesthetic, that's considered a really favorable thing, but I often call them see-through houses. I remember driving through a neighborhood one time with my husband when we were looking for houses. And I could see from the street, I could see out through the front of the house to the backyard. I remember one time I saw some kids playing on a swing set in the backyard, but I could see all the way through the house. Do you think that can be a good thing? I guarantee you it's not, and your wallet is telling you that. So if that's the kind of arrangement you have, you've got to block that view. So key. How can you do that? There's a lot of different ways. So for instance, I lived in a big, beautiful home in Austin, and this house was gorgeous. It was a designer home, and just super like gorgeous 8-foot alderwood doors, and just stunning. Hand scraped floors, blah blah, just stunning. But when you open those big front iron doors, you could see all the way to the backyard because it was one big giant window at the back of the house. And so, as you might imagine, my money flew out. We could not spend enough. It was like there was a giant hole in our bank account. And so my husband was, having apoplexy about it. And I said, well, we've just got to put up some doors. We had a foyer like kind of area that was marked by arches, and then when you went through the arches, you were in the dining room. One set of arches at the entryway, and the other arches you saw through to the living room with that giant glass window. And I said, let's put in a set of doors at where those arches are that go into the living room. And then that way, the FedEx man doesn't have to see smack all the way out to the backyard, and doesn't have to see me in my pajamas if my husband, answers the door one morning. And we preserve some of our privacy. And this is really important because we want to preserve a little privacy. The other thing is we don't want that rushing energy. Because when you can see from the front all the way to the back, that's a rushing energy. And that rushing energy means that you're rushing to write checks all the time, right? You have to pay those bills. My dad used to call those love letters. I'd love you to send me some money. I always thought that was really cute. Anyhow, but once we got those doors set up, it was amazing how the flood of money going out of the house stopped. And the money started staying in our bank account, started staying in our checking, and we accumulated more. And that is a really great feeling. I mean, sometimes it's great to spend money, but not all the time. You don't want it just, bills and things just coming up all the time. Now, let's talk about a couple other ways that money could be flying out and how to stop it. One very common way that you may not even know that you have, and this has happened to me too, because I can tell you I've lived a lot of these feng shui scenarios that I talk about, and I work with clients all the time that have the same problem. So when you are faced, like suddenly you're paying a lot of bills, like things just keep happening, appliances break, the car needs repair, the dog needs to go to the vet, something just keeps coming up, one thing after another. It's a really good time to go around the house and to check all your water faucets. So whether that's in the bathroom or the kitchen or the laundry room or the hose bibs, the plumbers call those hose bibs, on the exterior of your house. But it's not good enough just to look for that dripping faucet. You need to get down on the ground and open up the cabinet and look underneath. That's because those fittings, a lot of times, especially if it's a newer home or an older home, newer homes will have that PVC piping, and sometimes they just don't, clamp down really tight, and they can come loose, and then you get a leak, and then the next thing you know, you're opening up your kitchen cabinet, where the kitchen sink is, and you have a giant mess underneath. And that's exactly what happened to me. I kept noticing that it seemed like we were just getting one stupid bill after another, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I started doing a little snooping around the house and inspecting. And once I got underneath the kitchen counter and I looked underneath the sink, sure enough, I had an ongoing leak and had no idea that it had been happening. Happened to me a year ago. Same thing. The kitchen was leaking water. go around and look at all of your fittings, all of your plumbing fittings, and make sure they're good and tight and that there's no leak. Because if you have leaking water around the house, that's leaking money. Now, you could also have a leaking toilet. That maybe, you have the toilet that like the ghost flushing, or the ball cock in the tank starts, refilling up. It keeps coming back up, and you hear that in the night. I can guarantee you that's because there's a fitting that isn't seated right, and it's losing water, or the flap on the toilet is not seated properly, or it's been eaten out, or it's just old and it needs to be replaced. Sometimes that just happens. So make sure that you give your house a good look. Look at all of the hoses and everywhere in the house and look for those leaks. You might be surprised at what you find. And once you get it repaired, you'll notice a drop off. See, our homes symbolize our lives. And what goes on in our homes often goes on in our lives. If we are leaking, or we have a leak in our faucets or hoses or in the wash, and don't forget the laundry room. Be sure to check the washer and dryer and make sure that you don't have that. And also look at your ceilings. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Look at your ceilings and see if there's a leak somewhere, because you might notice that, there's a stain over there in that the guest bedroom that I had never noticed. And once you get that leak in the roof fixed, then that might be all it takes. So let's talk about burning through money. You can actually symbolically burn through money. A very common way that this happens, and again, I'm using my house as an example. The house I'm living in currently has exactly this arrangement, where you open the door and boom, you see the fireplace. If you can open the front door and see a fireplace, then you're burning through money. Then money is going to not accumulate for you. It's gonna be taken up with bills, expenses, things that you didn't plan on, those unpleasant surprises, that you just didn't expect to happen. When that happens, we want to make sure that no matter whether it's a window at the back of the house or you're looking at a fireplace from the front door, you want to block that view. Now, I know this isn't something that, everyone wants to do. You don't want to block the view. We like that big open house. And, my feeling is save the view for the people who live in the house by keeping the back of the house nice and open and keep that view, preserve that at the back of the house. But at the front of the house where your FedEx guy is going to be dropping off packages and Girl Scouts are going to be ringing the bell and that kind of thing, nobody needs to see your whole entire house from standing at your front porch. That's my opinion, because I feel like there's also an aspect that it's sort of like, you don't want to just wear all your, you wouldn't want to wear your account balances on your face. You wouldn't want to have that tattooed on your arm, because it's really none of anybody's business. You want to keep some kind of privacy about what you have in terms of assets. And we look at that in terms of the privacy that we have in our home. And if you open up your house and you can just clear see everything, the bathroom, the toilet, the kitchen, out the back of the house, then there's this leaking of assets. And that's what we're trying to control. So for instance, in my home where I live currently, it's a nice sized home and it has an open concept, which I really love, and beautiful views, just beautiful views. The problem was everybody could see it. The guy at the FedEx, delivery guy, or the postman, or whoever came to the front door could see all the way out to the back of the house. They could see all the way to the right, to the left, and I just didn't want them to see that. But most importantly was you could see straight. It was almost like you could see your eye immediately went to the fireplace. That means burning through money. So what I did was the way I fixed it was I had two columns in the entryway, and I hung up a curtain. And I hung a curtain there and I put a console table in front of it. So now it just looks like a nice console table there. And in the living room where it's all nice and open and we can see the beautiful view off of the golf course and the pond at the back and the ducks and all the wonderful wildlife that we have outside of our windows, that's all preserved for us. And it's not for whoever's at the front door. So it's a nice way of kind of getting a little privacy back. And what we noticed was it just slowed down so much, how the money was just like flying through our home and expenses were coming in fast and furious. So this is one way that you can stop that. So whether you have a door that aligns with the window at the back of the house, or you have a fireplace that you see, make sure that you're trying to block that view in some way. A lot of people's answer is to put a curtain at the back window. Well, my feeling is that shuts off the view from the window, and that's not where you want to shut the view from. I'm of the opinion that you want to close the view from the front, where the public can see everything. My feeling is you want to preserve the view for the homeowners, for the people who live there, not for the public, right? So you can do this a lot of different ways. You can block it you can put an actual door up, you can hang a curtain, you can put a plant in the way. Sometimes I've seen, entry, depending on how big your entry is or your room is, you can put a table with a big floral arrangement. What we want to do is stop your eye. Now, a traditional cure, and I don't really like using the word cures. That's strictly more of a Western feng shui idea. The best cure is to stop your eye, right? Is just to not see it. But if you are feeling like you don't want to hang up a curtain, you want to preserve that open look, one way you can help that or slow that money down is by hanging some faceted crystals from the ceiling and hang those down. That's a traditional way of curing that sort of front to back alignment, or also with the fireplace. Now, with the fireplace, that's not a typical or traditional way of handling that. I really think that you should try to block the view in some manner if you can do that. So there you go. We talked today about how to handle when money is flying out of the house and it's just you're going through it too quickly. I'm gonna talk about the 3 top tips that we talked about today, just to kind of recap. And that's tip number 1 is stop the poison arrow, and that's that front to back alignment. It could be with a door or a window, or it may be just a big glass opening in your at the back of the house. That can create a poison arrow, and that can create actually more than financial loss. It can create health problems, accidents, and injuries. That's called a poison arrow. Very important that you block that view and stop your eye from going all the way through, because it's rushing and severe. My husband actually suffered from a poison arrow like that one time and shattered his leg. And so it can be very severe. I've seen that happen. 2 is leaks. Be sure to check for leaks. When money is leaking, check for water leaking. Go and make sure that all of your fittings on all your plumbing fixtures are nice and snug. The toilets, check underneath the cabinets, check underneath the sinks, check for those fittings, feel around them, and make sure that any hoses that you have on the exterior of your house, check all of those fittings, and then look at the ceiling to make sure that there's no leaks in the ceiling. And then lastly, you just want to make sure that and this is a really important tip, that you see money accumulate. A lot of times we get fixated on what's going out and we don't look at what's growing or what's accumulating. If you don't ever see money growing in any of your accounts, or you don't see money accumulating, it's very important that you set up an account where the only thing that happens is money goes in. That's a really good tip for you. And, even if it's a glass jar, maybe that's your account, a glass jar, and you put $1 a day in there. I don't care how you do it. Maybe set up an investment account, set up a little IRA, whatever it is that you need to do. So I like to see money in my wallet. I like to see money in an account. I like to see money that the only thing it ever does is grow. Very important that you have and you keep an account that only grows and you never touch. And if you can see money accumulate and grow, it goes a long way to helping you gain financial traction in your life. All right, there you go. My last and final tip, and I think it's a great one. I hope you have an account that only grows and you get that. If you don't, that you get that set up. Have a great day. Thanks for listening today, and I'll talk to you on the next episode of 5 Minute Feng Shui. Thanks for listening to 5 Minute Feng Shui today. The Year of the Rat is coming, and I want to share with you where you can find money, love, and opportunity in 2020. And it's all in my annual Feng Shui Forecast, the Success Pack. You get a full year of in-depth Feng Shui details about how to use the energy of the year for success and prosperity. That's because every year we're showered with a Roman candle of opportunities for money, abundance, love, and opportunity. You just have to know where they are. And my Year of the Rat Feng Shui Success Pack includes all the details for every house and every zodiac sign. You also get this year's lucky clothing, handbag, and wallet colors. So be sure to go to redlotusletter.com/rat for all the details on the Year of the Rat and how to make this year the year of your dreams.